Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real with Dr. Linda Chin. I'm her co-host, Audrey Bell Kearney, and this is the illustrious Dr. Linda Chin. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Listen, I've been multitasking all morning, and I happened to look like, wait a minute, am I in the wrong place? But I'm glad I wasn't. So I'm glad about that. We got a great topic today. When I saw the topic, right, I felt like a little kid.
Yeah.
Get somewhere and shut up and sit down. I said, get somewhere and sit down. And I would think about my great grandmother. Sit down. She used to yell like that to me when I was a little girl. Sit down, because she used to tell me I was bad. I think I might have been a little bad, Dr. Chen, just a little bit. My brother was worse. But I think I was a little bad. I think we were like two little bad kids. And I remember her yelling, sit down. That was her favorite thing to say. So my grandmother, I don't remember my grandmother saying too much. But my great grandmother, I remember her yelling all the time. And they both had bull whips.
Oh
So my great grandmother
no.
had a really, oh yes, oh yes, ma'am, oh yes, ma'am. So when I wasn't getting a whipping with a switch, she would get that bull whip and she would sit on the porch, and me and my brother be doing something bad. She would take it and she knew how to pop, and she would pop us. And I remember one day she went to strike me and I jumped off the porch so she didn't hit me. So I was a little terror, I think. And I think about my granddaughter. She's a terror. So that must be where she get it from. But anyway, I won't keep talking so much. How did you come up with this topic? Like, what made you decide to do this one? Get somewhere and sit down.
It's from my own life experience. From my own life experience. Um, I I'm one of those people who I'm wired where if I'm not doing something, I don't feel productive. So I've had to work on being still, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so one day, last week, I think it was, or the week before, I was doing some things, just preparing some things for a project Michael and I have coming up. And I went and plopped down. Where did I go sit down? I went and sat down in a chair in the guest room. And I just sat there for a minute and I just looked up, and I saw dust this thick on the globes, on the ceiling fan globes. The light bulbs were dusty. The ceiling fan, the ceiling
Oh my
fan
God.
were dusty, right? And I thought, oh my God. And that was a room where I had my daughter was in that room when she was going through some healing. And I thought, this is really disgusting. So I still sat there for a little while. And then, then I figured, okay, now you got something to do. So I knew I had to get up there and clean, take those globes down and,
Cleaning
you
dust.
know,
Yes.
yeah. And so, I mean, it's not something that was on my regular cleaning list. It's not some part of my regular cleaning routine. And I don't think that kind of thing is on anybody's. And some people don't care, but I do, right? It's not on
Mm-hmm.
anybody's list. I just knew, okay, so that means the rest of the globes are probably dirty too. And then later on that same week, I went to go sit down, and I sat in the chair in the living room, in a chair I never sit in. And I happened to look up, and there's a transom window over the front door, and I saw these wasps. I guess they were attracted to the light, and I'm like, oh no! So I had to sneak up there. I had to get on a little ladder and spray my stuff, and then I had to clean the window from the spray. But I thought to myself, if I hadn't sat down, I wouldn't have realized those wasps were up there. And then,
Mm-hmm.
was a little cone, a little nest. They started building a little nest inside the house. And I said, I could have been
Oh,
sleeping and gotten stung. Anything could have happened, right?
yeah.
So I thought to myself, that's why it's important to get somewhere and sit down. You never know what you're going to discover. You never know what danger you could have been in. It's just really good to get somewhere and sit down. And I get upset with myself when my husband has to tell me, will you please sit down somewhere? Right? Can you please just sit down? And so Psalm 46:10 says, be still and know that I am God. And I think that because we're in a world where everything is moving, and we've got to be productive, and we've got to market, and we've got to work on our branding, and we've got to take the children here. Even though we're working virtually, we're working harder, right? We're just
Yes.
always doing
Yes.
something. But God said, be still and know that I am God. And I thought about that scripture when I saw those wasps, because I said, you're the one who led me here. I never would have seen that we had a wasp nest growing up there. Who looks up, in those ceiling places by the windows and front doors? You just don't do it. But, scientists say that if you take, a few minutes every day to sit down, that you'll just find peace. So it's not only biblical, but, scientists state the same thing, and we're constantly bombarded with stimulation, right? And that's where I think children, not just the sugar that we feed them, but we're constantly bombarded with the stimulation of everything. That's why we're texting, we're scrolling, and we're tweeting. We have 5 and 6 windows open on our laptops, on our cell phones. We've got to, I'm telling the truth.
I'm sitting here counting right now. Like, how many is that? I think I got 10 open right now. Right. I'm like, wait a minute. I got about 10 open right now.
Yeah. But, I found, Audrey, that there is value in doing nothing. There's value. That may sound crazy. How can value in nothing? But there is value in actually doing nothing. When you just get somewhere and sit still, you gain a sense of yourself. You gain so much peace, right? And it's just something that we need to practice, I think, every day. We need to practice it every day by taking time from the hustle and bustle. We give our minds a break. We give our bodies a chance to just recharge. What was the movie? I think it was Bad Boys, where they're saying woosah. Who was it? Woosah?
Yeah. Was it? Yes, woosah. It was Bad Boys. Woosah. You need the woosah. Yep.
Don't you think?
Yeah. I totally agree. It was so funny. For the last couple of days, I launched the Women's Chamber, the Gwinnett Women's Chamber, early in March. And I've been just running like this, just running and just feeling overly like tired. And I know it's because even when I lay down, my mind is still going. Right. And so for the last couple of days, I've been struggling to get anything done. Like literally, like I would do my show in the morning, couldn't get anything done. Just couldn't even make myself focus. But today I said, you know what? I'm gonna do the show. And I didn't even do a full show today. I said to my daughter, I said, do you believe I don't even feel like doing my show right now? And she was like, what? Wow. I did not. I was so tired. But what I did was I did a short show. And then I made me some lunch. And then after the lunch, I did nothing. And I said, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm not going to do anything so I can get myself together, because I felt like I just been nothing for like 2 hours, Dr. Chen. I didn't do a thing. And literally after 2 hours, I felt great. And then I did a to-do list. I started checking stuff off. It was great. So I totally understand when you say sometimes you just need to get somewhere and sit down, because you'll be running in circles doing absolutely nothing, or just up moving and nothing is happening. You're not making any progress. And for 2 days, that was me. No progress.
Right. And even, doctors say that when you're moving around constantly, it elevates your blood pressure. Right? Your body is in this fight or flight mode when we're constantly doing, and your breathing is shallow and your blood pressure is raised. I remember, that's why I knew this was an issue that I needed to address. And this was maybe last year, maybe a little over a year ago. I found myself, I'm moving. When I move like I'm not a slow mover, right? Slow movement kind of irritates me sometimes. Like, can you just, do what you need to do and get on so you can do something else, and that's a mindset, right? Not necessarily a good mindset. If you've got to make things happen quickly, that's different. But as a natural state of being, it isn't good. And I'm not going to say this was random, because I know God. And I was led. I hacked on this scripture. I believe it's Proverbs 19:2, where it says, to haste with your feet, it is not good. And to be without, to haste with your feet is sin. And to be without knowledge is not good. So I'm saying I'm hasting with my feet all the time. Are you telling me that I'm sinning all throughout the day, just ripping and running like a little, robot, like a little something like a Energizer buddy? And I thought, God, that's sin all of this time. And I think that's why he led me to that. Now, I don't want people to go all crazy and think that when you're hurriedly moving, but if you are constantly in a state where you are hasting with your feet, Scripture says it is sin. And then it's followed by, to be without knowledge, it is not good. So you ever remember our parents used to say, haste makes waste? So I think it does. Where we think we're hasting, we're saving time, redeeming time, but hasting is actually wasting the opportunity to gain knowledge about something. You miss, and I miss so many things when we don't learn to move a little slowly, and to be still.
I find that when I am brushing my teeth and the water's running, I'm just like in one spot doing like this. All these things start to come to me. It's crazy. And I said to myself, why is that? Why is that? And so I'm not still, but I'm definitely not focused on anything except for brushing my teeth at that moment, which is the weird thing. So I totally get that.
Yeah, and stillness is therapeutic. It's therapeutic. So the ability, if we think about it, to sit still is a sign of self-control. So what I realized is that I was out of control. Sitting still is a sign of self-control, and it helps build your mental focus. It helps build that mental focus, right? So when you think about it, it helps us, it promotes calmness in us. And particularly if we have young children, or if we're dealing with elders, or even in marriage, you don't want to always respond with impatience, even with yourself. We want to be calm, because when the body's in constant motion, right, it sends a signal to the brain that something is wrong. This is what we don't realize. So it's not the brain that's sending the signal to the body when you're in this constant moving and moving. It's the body movement that's sending a signal to the brain that's saying something is wrong, and it puts you on alert. That is not a good constant state to be in. So we need to get somewhere and sit down. Get somewhere and sit down. And sitting still can also help improve our breathing. It reduces stress. You know, a lot of people just don't know how to do it. It helps us, and I didn't do this on purpose, but it helps you to bond with your surroundings. It helps us to bond with the environment. So, like, I like hummingbirds. And well, let me just start with this one first. So one day I was sitting out on the deck, and I was just practicing, just being still, just sitting still, being quiet. And I was watching a hummingbird, and they're tiny. So I have hummingbird feeders. So when they go and land on a tree, I noticed this, and I noticed this for at least 3 years in a row, that there are, I'm convinced that some of the hummingbirds that come back every year, some of them are the same. The second thing I noticed is some of them go back to the very same branch and sit on the very same branch. The branch may be longer because it's grown over the years, but it's on the same branch. So one day I thought to myself, while I'm sitting here and I'm focusing, and I watched the hummingbird leave the feeder, go back to its little perch on the branch. And I said, I'm going to see if I can track it. I'm going to see if it comes back to the feeder or if it goes someplace else, because they're very combative. They're very competitive. When they come to the feeders, there's several holes, and I don't want to get off topic, but they're very competitive, combative. They want the feeder all to themselves. So I watched it. I said, I'm going to see how long it sits there and where it goes. Well, I saw the branch moving, and I kept looking at the branch, and I kept looking, the branch was moving. And I heard God say, you're looking at the place where it was. Just because you see movement doesn't mean there's anything still there. You understand what I'm saying? We think because there's movement that there's something there. So sitting still allowed me to know, just because you're moving around doesn't mean you're really doing anything. Just because you're shuffling papers, you know how people can look busy on the job. Boy, we could look busy, right? And I watched, just sit still. And so we connect with the environment. I connected with the environment, just sitting still. And I thought, This world is such a busy place. That's why I don't drive a lot of places. The traffic gets on my nerves. You know, the
Me
traffic,
too.
long
Yes.
lines. It's just too busy.
Yes.
There always is, and there always is going to be something to do, somewhere to be, and someone to see, because that's just how
Yeah.
busy we are. But just because we're
Yeah.
moving doesn't mean there's anything there. Doesn't mean there's any productivity. Doesn't mean any fruitfulness.
I
Right?
think that's how a lot of people get caught up in strolling through social media because they're not clear because they have not sat still long enough to get clear. So they go online and the next thing you know, they're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and they're just scrolling for hours. And that's because they're just not clear because they haven't been still long enough to figure out, okay, what's my next step? For me, I'm not a big social media person. But I will sit here and like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be, and I'll say this all the time. I know I'm supposed to be doing something. I just don't know what it is right now. And I get like that sometimes, but I'm really honest with myself. Like I have no idea. And so that's why this morning I was like, you know what? I know I have to do a lot of stuff. And my to-do list has everything on it. I couldn't figure out how to where to start first. And I was like, I'm gonna do the show, a short show. I'm gonna eat my breakfast. And then I'm going to go back when I have had a minute to just sit down and just do nothing. And I think what happens is for me, I'm an early bird person. So anything
Mhm.
that interrupts my morning pattern throws me off.
Mhm.
And so for the last couple of weeks, I've been thrown off. And so when I get thrown off, now it's like, okay, I got to get back on on the track, but then something else come along. So, I think just understanding, like, even if you have a pattern, just find some time to just find somewhere to sit quietly. I went outside and just sat on the patio one day. I was like, I'm just gonna sit here.
Yes.
I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna sit there.
Yes.
I had to. I just felt like I needed to rejuvenate.
That's another thing it does. That's why we need to learn how to get somewhere and sit down, right? And so it also gives us a self of appreciation.
Yeah.
It gives you self, so you're not just connecting with the environment. You get to appreciate yourself and things that are around you, right? How many
Yeah.
people, and I'm challenging people who are even going to listen or listening to this podcast. How many nice things, artwork, busts, some people, I don't know if it's statues or whatever it is, Swarovski crystal that you have in your house that have not taken the time to just sit down and enjoy. It was beautiful when you bought it. Beautiful. You hung it on the wall and you're looking at it and you're making sure that it's not crooked because you liked it. And how often have we sat and watched, just sat still to enjoy our surroundings and enjoy ourselves? But aside from having peace in it, de-stressing us, there are other benefits, right, to sitting still. You get to connect with yourself. You really get to connect with who you are. You get to we just did that class, that self-awareness class, and it was really, 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 really great. And we talked about really investigating and interrogating ourselves, testing ourselves, right? Um and making sure that we know who we are and how we're showing up. And so getting somewhere and sitting down helps us to do that, right? Scrutinizing our behavior. It promotes peace. When you get somewhere and sit down, it promotes peace in your atmosphere. You now have become the
Mm-hmm.
thermostat, not the thermometer, but you have become the actual change agent to bring peace into the atmosphere. So it's good to get somewhere and sit down, right? When we remain constantly in motion, our minds are racing. So sometimes you can get somewhere, sit down, and your thoughts will come calmly and you can collect them like you did. You realize it was a need.
Mm-hmm.
It was a
Mm-hmm.
need for you to get somewhere and to be still, and it clears your mind and it gives you a chance and it gives you an opportunity to improve your mental health. Getting somewhere and sitting down improves your mental health, not just the focus, but the overall healthiness of our minds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Dr. Chen, clarity is a big one too because I have a to-do list that I work by,
Mhm.
but it was so much stuff on the to-do list. It's like I can't even wrap my head around it. So the minute I took that time to just be quiet, sit still, collected my thoughts, came back into my office, color coded everything with dates and time. Yeah. And I was like, okay, today I'm going to do these things. They were all in yellow, right? Tomorrow I'm going to do these things. They're all in green. And Friday I'm going to do these things. They're in dark green. The minute I started to do that, I was able to just start taking stuff off. That was so needed for me to move forward. But a lot of times people don't even know that they need to stop and be still so they can rejuvenate and reconnect with what the thing that they need to be doing. So how do they even pay attention to that?
So that self-awareness, you've got to know and ask yourself, am I moving about? Why am I moving all the time? Right? Why am I doing this? Ask yourself why. What is the purpose where we feel and think we do not need to get somewhere and sit down? And so because we've been moving so much for so long, we don't know how to be still. So you ask yourself questions. I'm constantly asking myself questions. I'm constantly investigating my behavior. I'm constantly interrogating my motives and my responses. Why did you respond that way? Why does that bother you so much? Is that really any of your business? Do you really need to know that? You know what I'm saying? So because the older I get, the more peace that I want in my life, the more calmness. I find that I don't need to be around a whole lot of people. It's not necessary for me. I'm not a social butterfly, never have been. But how to be still is what people really struggle with. And so we have to allow ourselves, you have to give yourself permission to do nothing.
Yeah.
You would have to give. So what that means is, so let me put it this way. If I were when I was young and went to a party that I didn't have permission to go to, I knew I wasn't supposed to be there, I was kind of looking around to see if my oldest sister or her friends or somebody I know would show up. I didn't have peace because I didn't have permission.
Right.
So if you don't give yourself permission to sit down, you're going to feel guilty for sitting down. You're going to feel guilty for doing nothing, rather than realizing that doing nothing sometimes has great value.
Yes. Workaholics are like that though. They feel like if I'm not doing something constantly, I'm just talking about myself. I ain't talking about y'all. I know it's not y'all. I'm just talking about myself. If I'm not constantly moving and doing something, it's guilt like you would not believe. But by the same token, if I don't stop, nothing really gets done.
All right.
It's just so with nothing happening.
That's okay. So that takes me back to you always never, right? You only always never. It's not that nothing gets done, because the something that gets done is you brought peace into your atmosphere. You've gotten something done. And then there are days where maybe something doesn't need to get done. Like I've had to say to myself, I literally had to do certain things to say, you're not going to do this. Like I question myself all the time. I had to ask myself, what bad thing is going to happen, Linda, if you don't do those dishes? Because I can't stand dirty dishes in the sink. That's a problem for me, right? So I had to let them sit there overnight. What bad is going to happen? Nothing. I don't have roaches, so I wasn't worried about roaches. Rodents. Right. So nothing bad was going to happen. So I had to give myself permission. Another way, so the first thing is to learn how to be still, is to give yourself permission. Allow yourself to do nothing. Sitting still is something. See, we believe lies. We entertain lies. We fellowship with lies. We sit down and have whole conversations with lies. We'll sit down and drink coffee with a lie. We'll go to bed with a lie. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So sitting still is something that can be difficult for a lot of people, myself included. But the biggest barrier is sitting still is giving myself the permission to do it. It's okay. It's necessary. It's not only it's necessary. And in doing that, I let go of unhealthy expectations.
Talk about that. What are unhealthy expectations? What are they?
So for me, I expect my house to always be clean. There's nobody here but me and my husband, right? There's no reason why my house should not be clean. I expect that when I get up that my bed's going to be made. And my husband said, "You're just going to get back in anyway." Nope. You get up and you make up your bed every day, right? Those dishes in the sink. I didn't like going to bed with dishes in my sink. So that was an expectation, right? But it was unhealthy because it would cause me stress. If I didn't make my bed and get this certain laundry done, those are expectations where, Linda, nothing bad was going to happen. So these expectations bring anxiety. Anxiety increases your blood pressure. Increased blood pressure is not good. It's unhealthy.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Let go of the expectations. Don't expect so much from yourself all the time.
Yeah. That's a good one there, Dr. Chen. That's a good one. Listen, I'm around alpha females all the time, and they run on 99 all the time. All the time.
Because we like to think that we're this superwoman. We like to be called, I'm a boss. Nobody care about you being a boss. I shouldn't say that so cavalierly, but I don't really care about. I know that I'm a boss, but you can't even boss yourself around. We're so busy being a boss, but we can't even manage ourselves to sit down for 5 minutes. But I'm a boss. Yeah. I can boss everybody else around. I can cut checks, but I don't have enough authority to say, "Self, sit down for 5 minutes." Think about that.
I was in a meeting last week with a young lady. She's an alpha female too, and she said after the meeting they wanted to go do something after the meeting. Now here I am, I'm like about to fall on my face. This was Sunday, and she's like, "I know myself. I have got to go home and lay down." She's like, "I cannot." And she tussled with it. So did I. But I was like, I'm gonna go ahead on with it. She was like, "I'm going home." And she left and went home. Me, I'm sitting to the table, and one of the girls said, "You look exhausted." I was like, "I am." I should have just gone home like she did. Because she's like, "I know myself. I couldn't take it." And so a lot of times too, there's this need to want to be a part and not want to turn your back on the group and that kind of stuff. And so it was all of these things that keep us going like this, when if we just stop for a second, we can keep going. But we got to stop for a second to catch our breath, to get back on track. And she was like, I couldn't do it. And she was contemplating. She was like, "Where y'all going?" We were going to some Mexican place. And then she was like, she stopped there. She took a deep breath, but you could tell she was exhausted like me. But I was like, I'm going to go ahead with it. It was on my route home. So it wasn't like I had to go out of the way. But still, I was sitting there totally zoned out because I was exhausted. And something happened. And one of the ladies said to me the next day, "You didn't hear it?" I was like, "No, I did not hear anything." And we literally was sitting like next to each other. I heard nothing. What had happened in that little whatever it was. I did not hear it. I was just totally out.
What made you decide to go?
Pretty much because everybody else was going.
Expectation.
Except for one person.
Expectation.
Expectations.
So people expect me to go. Right. My husband doesn't expect me to have dinner cooked every night. He's not that kind of man. He doesn't expect me to keep a clean house. I was that way when he met me. Right. So, but sometimes we think other people's expectation is our responsibility.
Ooh, say that again.
We think other people's expectations are our responsibility, and they're not. Unless you're getting paid to do a job, that's different. Right? If I work at McDonald's and they expect 5 hamburgers to be done in 2 minutes, then that's my responsibility to make sure that's done if it's a requirement of the job. But when you get these intrusive thoughts and these intrusive people's ideas and opinions, then they become expectations that we live up to, and we're constantly moving when we ought to sometimes get somewhere and sit down. Sit down.
Yeah.
So I had these Post-its, and each one had a word, just do nothing. Just do nothing. But did
you do that for yourself? Like, did you do that for a specific reason to remind yourself?
Yes, for myself. I have a to-do list too. I don't make my to-do list very long. I have things that I need to do certain days. And if I have a responsibility or a deadline to meet, that's one thing. Right. But I even found that some creating to-do lists for me was stressful. So I'm going to tell you what I also did. Real talk. I have a wall calendar. You know, you got a calendar on your phone, and I have my little desk stuff for my things I need to accomplish if I have something to accomplish today. But I literally have on my calendars big black X's. That means do nothing. Don't call me. Don't make any appointments that day. No, I'm not going to the movies. I'm not going to meet you at a restaurant. I'm not having lunch. I have days that I schedule to do nothing. I schedule do nothing days.
So there's a business radio station here in Gwinnett, and when I launched the chamber, he gave me the opportunity to come into the station every month and do a show. And I was like, well, you know, my only free day is like Friday. And he was like, no, don't use your free day. And I was like, yeah, but you know, he's like, or you do not use your free day. That's your day. And he had to, I was ready to take my free day and put work on my calendar. He's like, don't use your free day. And I was like, okay. And I had to go back home and just think about it. So we haven't started the show yet because I can't figure out what day the only free day I got is Friday, and it's my day. That's my day.
Don't do it. Don't.
He told me not to. Like, don't use your free day.
Don't do it. Yeah. And don't do it.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I haven't done it. I'm not going to do it.
It's beneficial to the rest of your days to have a free day.
Yeah.
It's beneficial to your family, your marriage, your mental, your physical, your psychological, your spiritual well-being to have a free day. Because watch what's going to happen. On your free day, ideas and strategies will come that will fuel your busy days.
Yeah.
So to be still, and I don't want people to get the idea that, okay, to be still, I have to, that I have to sit in a lotus position, that I have to meditate, that I have to pray, that I have to try to empty my mind. No, just sit there, do nothing. And don't make a big deal out of it. Sit and watch a bug. Go outside and watch a butterfly. Go outside and look at a tree. See if you can count the leaves on a branch. Sit there and do not. It is more beneficial. I'm hoping and praying that somebody's life is changed seriously by this podcast, because we've gotten so busy. We don't have time for God. We don't have time for ourselves, our spouses, our children, right? We have these audio books because we don't want to sit down and read a book because we got to learn something while we're driving in the car. I drive in silence. When I'm in the car I drive in complete silence. I don't listen to audio. I don't need to have something always going on for me. I don't need that. I don't need to have and I used to use my car as a university, right? Place where I would put the CDs in and learn and all of that. I don't do that anymore. I won't do it. So it takes practice, right? Being still, getting somewhere, and sitting down takes practice. The biggest problem is giving yourself permission to do it. And if you have to literally write out a permission slip, I, Linda Chin, have permission this day, what's today, April the 20, whatever it is, from this time to this time to sit still and do nothing.
Ooh. That sounds like a product for you, Dr. Chin. Sound like a product to put in your library.
Like a coupon, right? Because we make coupons for Valentine's Day and all of that. But, you know, it starts small. So this is another way that I did it. This is another way how you can do it, is you start small. I started doing it in 5-minute increments. I did it for two reasons. Because one, I would sit here and I would be typing and I'd look over there and see a dust bunny, get over there and get the little thing and dust that off. Then when I get over there and dust that off, I see something over there and pick this up, and then he got to watch. No, so it benefited me in several ways. I started with 5 minutes. Now, like I said, I'm up to whole days, entire days on my calendar where I schedule myself to do nothing. And it is the most refreshing things, right? So you start small. If it's hard for you to get somewhere and sit down, if you feel guilty because you can't give yourself permission to be still, if you don't understand that there's value in doing nothing, write yourself a permission slip. It's easy to think, right? That in order to reap the benefits of stillness, that you need to dedicate a certain amount of hours. You don't have to do that. Start small. Start small.
You know what else too, Dr. Chen? I think another thing too that we have to start doing is letting other people know that I'm off this day. Because last week someone called me at 6:45 in the morning on Friday, scared the daylights out of me because they never called me. So I'm thinking something is wrong. And I answered the phone like, hello, and I was asleep. And I was like, hello? And she was like, did I wake you? I'm like, yeah, it's like 6:45. It's like, oh, I thought you were up. Not on Fridays. Not at 6:45 on Fridays. So I think that because we are always so open to everybody, people don't even know that we have boundaries sometimes, and they will interfere with our peace, even when we're trying to be quiet, if we let them. So I think giving everybody else around you the opportunity to say to know that, you know what, don't call me at this time because I'm not answering.
I used to do that, but I don't need to give permission to be still. I used to do that. Because now I'm feeling like I got to let people know. I don't need to let in. That's just me, right? But if you've got, that's your quiet day and you don't want to put your phone on do not disturb for that hour so that that phone call can go. I really used to do that. Now I did that with my siblings because we're texting every day. And I will say to them, I'm going on a retreat for 3 days. If it's not, I'll go sit. I'm going out there at Conyers, right? Sitting with the monks and just doing nothing, being quiet. But I don't inform people that I'm going to be unavailable to them. They learn. So when we talk about boundaries, you're talking about when you don't have clear boundaries, when you don't set boundaries. Sometimes your boundaries are not clear. So if you pull into a parking lot where they've had parking lines where you park in your parking space and those lines are faded, you don't know the boundary. You may not be able to see the lines clearly because they faded away. So you may be out of bounds. You may be a little more on this parking space and a little over. But when you have your life set, you make the boundaries clear so that people after a while, they'll get it. They'll know to stop calling you on Friday. Right? Because now if you forget to tell people that you're not available on Friday, that's going to trigger a stress.
Yeah, I can see that. But most people don't call me. I think she was just used to me being up. And now I tell you, Will call me on any day, my brother. And if I'm sleeping, he goes, you do know Oprah's up already working, right? And he says it all the time because he's an early bird. He's at the gym at 5:30 in the morning. Yeah. He's like, you're not up. You do know Oprah's up working right now, right? And I was like, yeah, I ain't Oprah though. So I ain't up right now. So he will call me and say that.
Yeah. And some people say it's hard. People will say it's hard. It's hard to sit still. And it is. But some people have anxiety, like literal anxiety. Some people have stress. They're feeling ill. They're burnt out. They're grieving and all of that. But again, if you have issues with focus or the inability, set the timer on your phone. I will not move for these next 3 or 5 minutes. So you train your body, just like you train yourself physically, you train yourself, right? You train yourself to do it. And then some people say, well, I really don't have 5 minutes to sit still. That's a lie. That's why I say we entertain lies. We'll sit down, drink coffee with a lie, fellowship with a lie, sit and have taco with a lie, right? But have 5 minutes. You can sit in the bathroom for an extra 5 minutes a day.
That's right.
You can go to the bathroom stall and sit. It's nobody's business what you're doing in there. Right?
Right. That's right.
If you've got a meeting, and you want to get there a little early, you can lock the conference room door a little early. Right? You can sit in bed for an extra 5 minutes. You can you can turn off the TV, right? At 5 minutes before your day is over and just do nothing before you get in your car and drive home. You can sit in your garage for 5 minutes and just have quiet time. You can listen. You can go in the basement and tell the kids, mommy's going to go look for the linen, for the blankets, and go downstairs for 5 minutes and just sit there.
So my daughter has a friend, and her friend has 3 kids. And she said she just needed some time alone. So she took her dinner and sat in the car alone and ate her dinner. And I was like, people do. She's like, she needed that time,
Yeah.
like because she's with the kids all day long. So
Yeah.
she went outside, she got her plate, and
Yeah.
she went and sat in the car and
Yes.
she ate her dinner. I
Yeah.
thought that was hilarious. Now my daughter was having she was having some anxiety. And I sent her a spa gift certificate just out of the clear blue on, I
Oh
think it was
yeah.
Monday.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, you don't even know how much I needed that, because I felt her pain. You know, she's like, I just don't have any time. And so I sent her, I said, hey, what time you getting off today? She's like, I'm getting off at what's such a time? I said, do you have anything planned after that? She's like, no. I said, she said, why, you need me? I was like, yeah, I need you. So I said, well, I'm gonna call you back later. And she called me back like, what do you want? So I'm gonna call you back later. So when I finally sent her the text message, this is what you're going to do, and this is where you're going to go. And she was like, oh my, she told me, she said, oh my God, that was amazing. That was amazing. Yeah. So I thought that was hilarious. They said a friend went outside, took the plate and sat in the car, left the husband with the kids in the house. I thought that was so funny. I was like, really? It's like, yes,
that is desperation. But I'm going to say something to that. I'm going to say something, because I know people who have small children too, who feel like they have to give their children, they have to be accessible to their children all their waking hours. That's a poor way of creating boundaries for your children, because that's not real life. In real life, you're not going to be able to say, mommy, manager, you're not going to be able to do that. And for me, it is important. I'm going to tell you what my mother used to do. And I'm don't mean to stop in the middle, but my mother, when the grandkids came over, my mother did not remove glass ashtrays off of her coffee table. She did not put her plants at a higher level. This is my house. This is my ashtray. This is you don't touch it. You understand what I'm saying? What I mean by that? So you have to train 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. This is mommy's time. This is mommy's time out. They understand time out. Right? But when you're constantly answering and answering and answering, they have no boundaries. It is not healthy. It is not good to raise children where they don't understand that they don't have any boundaries to you, that they have 24/7 access to you. The only one who have 24 access or should is God. Is God. Nobody should have 24/7 access to you. If it's an infant, a suckling, that's one thing. And even they go to sleep and take a nap.
Yeah.
It's not healthy. We got to learn to get somewhere and sit down.
Yes. Yeah. Well, listen, some people go get in their car.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love it. She was desperate.
Yeah, she was. And she said, she just had to go. She said she just needed a minute. And she sat there and ate her dinner in the car. And I was like, wow. So that's
I hope she gave it time to digest.
Yes. Well, I don't know, but at least she got a chance to eat it and enjoy
it.
Right.
That's right.
At least you got a chance to do that.
Yes.
So what you got coming up? Because I know you got some good things happening. I know you wanted to talk about some of those things.
Well, one of the things I want to leave this parting thought about getting somewhere and sit down. Stop using the internet as a distraction. I'm going to leave with that. Stop using social media and the internet as a distraction. Just get somewhere and sit down, do nothing. But right now we have coming up another one of our ministries is Christian Women in Training Network. We are a Bible study group of women who get together monthly for 3 hours to study the Word of God. We mine through the scriptures. We take small bites of scripture and we break them down with the meaning in the context, the content, the culture. We compare it with other scriptures. We use dictionaries and lexicons. And this Saturday, so every first Saturday of the month, so May the 6th, we're going to be doing it virtually. The beginning of the year, we went back into the building. But May 6th, we're going to be doing it virtually. And so for those listening, I'm going to announce it on Facebook and we'll send out some emails and so forth. But I want you to feel free to come and join us. We are all different types of women and we love just studying the word. So join us, Christian Women in Training Network, right? You can go to the website, CWIT.us. I love that. I love that. Get somewhere. I love the feedback. Thank you so much. Thank you. Love the title. Reminds me of what my mother used to say. And then they used to say it this way: get somewhere and sat down. SAT.
Sit down.
Yes.
Sit down somewhere. That's what my grandma, that's how she used to say it. Sit down somewhere.
Yes. So that's the next thing. And we've got, I'll announce some other things coming up, but I thank you so much for this podcast. I thank you for the platform, Audrey. I do.
Thank you. Listen, you said you hope somebody's getting something. I don't know about anybody else, but I get something every 2 weeks. So thank you for sharing and sharing with us and everybody that's listening. And Miss Carolyn Shoemate for jumping on saying, get somewhere and sit down. Sit down. Sit down.
Yes.
Listen, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode as well. As always, I'm always grateful to be in Dr. Chen's presence and for her to just share like her wisdom with us. We'll be back again in 2 weeks. It'll be Monday. I know today is Wednesday. She had something to do, but it'll be 2 weeks on a Monday. So be sure to tune in. If you have not subscribed to the show, go to LeonardChenMinistries.com, find the tab for her podcast and subscribe to the show. And if you like this episode, share it with your friends. Share the episode with your friends. The more you share, the better she's doing in the search engines, and the better she's doing the podcast directories, and the more her show goes up in the search engines. Okay, so be sure to share the show. Dr. Chen, you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Peace.
Peace.